First things first, if you have a choice, choose a small SSC engine, like below 400, so that when you make a mistake it does not mop the ground with your face, and the size should be comfortable for you. You should be able to plant both feet into the ground, that way you can concentrate on riding and not falling. And knowing to ride a bicycle helps but is not necessary. Actually, balancing a motorcycle is easier than balancing a bicycle. Now go find yourself an empty place, asphalt, dirt, doesn't matter. Just make sure the surface is not too uneven. Riding a bike takes 4 limbs, so both of your hands and feet are gonna be doing something. Left hand will handle clutch lever, light controls, turn on, off, or flash. By the way, on almost all of the motorcycles, headlights are always on when the ignition is open. Turn signals. Pushing left turns left light. Pushing right turns right. Pushing in the middle turns it off. It does not turn off automatically, you have to turn it off yourself. Now you will find yourself leaving it on for quite a lot. That will give drivers a wrong idea and there is no easy way around this. So you'll just have to get into a habit of turning it off. And horn. Right hand will handle the throttle. Front brake. How many fingers you use to brake is up to you. So you know, most of the braking power comes from the front brake, like 70%. Kill switch. This is for killing the engine without taking your hand off a handle. It's good for emergencies and temporary stops. I personally always switch the engine off with a kill switch. And engine start. This obviously starts the engine. Left foot is in charge of shifting gears, and like 95% of the bikes have a sequential gearbox. This means you have to shift gears one by one. So if you want to shift down, you push the lever down. If you want to shift up, you push it up. But you can't jump between gears. If you want to put from second gear into fifth, you have to shift it up to third, fourth, and fifth. And if you want to put into first gear from fifth, you have to shift it down to fourth, third, second, and first. And there's the neutral gear between first and second. And you can put into neutral from first gear by pushing up half the way, or from second by pushing down half the way. You'll know you are in neutral when the N light comes on the dashboard. How to know which gear you are in? Some bikes have gear indicators, but some don't, so you just have to remember which gear you put in. The right foot takes care of the rear brake. It has less braking power than the front one, but it's still important. Mostly you will be using this to regulate speed, like slowing down or stop on slopes. And when stopping you should use both brakes and never only one. Well, unless you want to slide or dive over the bars. Underneath we have a side stand, also known as kickstand, and center stand. You're gonna be using side stand more, as the center stand is mostly for maintenance purposes. Now let's get on the bike from the left side. As it's leaning to the left, it's just easier. As for the right side, it's a little trickier and you might touch an exhaust pipe, which gets really hot when riding. Then the first thing you do is retract the side stand. Without that, bike won't start, or it might, but putting it into gear will kill the engine. When holding a handle, put your hands as wide as you can, not narrow like this, because your fingers will be closer to the base of the levers and it will be hard to pull them. Not too wide, uneven surfaces will strain your hands. Hold it like this, it's easier to pull the levers and you won't strain your hands. Same goes for the right hand, not too narrow, not too wide, just wide enough. Now for the beginners it might be easier to hold throttle like this. It's easier to regulate it, and if you clench it suddenly, you won't accidentally twist it. But as I said before, it will strain your hand and it's a bad habit. But talking from experience, it's easy to change that habit. So hold it the way it's most comfortable for you. Now let's start it. Put the keys in ignition and open it. It might be at a different place on different bikes. Make sure the kill switch is off and pull the clutch, even if there is N light on, because sometimes it's falsely on and it's still in gear, and some bikes won't even start until you pull the clutch. Now hit the engine start button and release right after the engine is on. Don't leave it pushed or you might fry your spark plugs. Wait a couple minutes before the engine gets warm. 2-3 minutes are usually enough. And that's it. Now this bike is a non-fuel injected bike, meaning it has a choke. Different bikes have them at different places. It might be on the handlebar, on the seat, on the carburetor. If yours does not have a choke, that means it's a fuel injected and will start just by pushing the engine start button, just as I did now. But every serious biker knows how to start a non-fuel injected bike. You'll need this only on a cool engine. If the engine is warm, do not use it. Just push the button, it will start. And never leave it open when riding. It will increase wear on the engine, which eventually leads to engine failure. Now to start, open the choke, pull the clutch and start the engine. Wait 2-3 minutes, then close. And that's it. Now that it's on, pull the clutch and put into first gear. Make sure you are going straight and not turning right away, because that will throw you off balance. Now slowly start releasing clutch to the point where bike tries to move. When it tries to move, twist throttle a little bit to help and leave it like that, and keep releasing clutch slowly until fully released. Do not increase throttle. Beginners do that a lot. They just keep increasing throttle when the bike doesn't start moving and don't release clutch, and then when they do, bike starts to move fast. That's really dangerous. Instead, just continue releasing clutch. If it stalls, it's okay, just feed a little more throttle and continue releasing clutch until the bike's moving. And don't pull up your feet until you are moving. You can even push to help. You might have heard that you should pull up your feet as soon as possible, but that's not the case for beginners, as you will easily lose balance. When you're moving, don't touch the clutch or release the throttle to regulate speed. Instead, use the rear brake. When stopping, pull the clutch first, then release the throttle and start braking with both brakes. If you release the throttle first and then use the clutch, what's gonna happen is the bike will brake with the engine and it will jerk and you might lose balance. So clutch goes first. Put down your feet only when you are fully stopped, not when you are rolling and not when you start tipping. It's not a bicycle. You won't be able to stop it with your feet that easy and you might even hurt yourself. Put down left foot first, as the right one is needed for the rear brake, especially on the slopes when left hand will be managing the throttle and you won't be able to use the front brake. Aside from that, the front brake doesn't hold well on uphills. It tends to slide easily. Make sure you are in first gear before you stop. If you don't, you'll have to change gears when you are stationary. And that's kind of a headache because sometimes you can't bulk change gears when not moving. And you'll have to change, then engage, change, then engage, and so on until first gear. When you get the fundamentals down, then you can start shifting gears. Just speed up a little for the next gear to handle it, then pull the clutch, release the throttle and change gear. Then release clutch slowly and feed the throttle, not too much. Shifting down is the same, but instead of speeding up, you slow it down. Pull the clutch, release throttle, shift down, then release clutch slowly and feed a little throttle. If you want to brake with the engine, don't use the throttle, just release the clutch. At first changing gears will be bumpy and unclean, but after a while you'll be able to change it smoothly. Turning on a bike is pretty intuitive. Just look where you want to go with your head, not just your eyes. Your chin should be pointing in the direction you want to go, and turn the wheel that way. And don't use the front brake when turning. You can use the rear one moderately, which will actually give you better handling. To stop, pull the clutch, release the throttle, put into first gear and push both brakes. When stationary, put down your feet, left one first, and that's it. Now we touched on the subject of starting on the slope, so let's learn that too. When stopping on slope, always make sure you are in first gear and always put down left foot first. Now to start releasing clutch. When the bike tries to move, increase throttle and slowly release rear brake. Throttle will hold the bike from rolling down. Keep releasing clutch and feeding enough throttle to start moving. And that's how you start a bike on the slope. One safety tip: if something starts to go wrong when riding, the first thing you do is pull the clutch and after that come brakes. If the first thing you do is brake, that just might be the reason for your crash. Now to summarize, let's ride a bike. Get on the bike from the left side, open ignition, retract side stand, pull the clutch, turn the kill switch off, start bike. Now put into first gear, slowly release clutch and increase throttle a little bit and keep releasing clutch. To shift up, increase speed a little, pull the clutch, release throttle, shift up. Now release clutch slowly and feed throttle. To turn, look where you want to go and steer in that direction. Look, steer. Look, steer. To shift down, pull the clutch, release throttle, shift down. Release clutch slowly and feed a little throttle. Releasing throttle after pulling the clutch should be instantaneous. Now to stop, pull the clutch, release the throttle, make sure you are in first gear. Use both brakes to stop and put down your feet, left one first. And that's it. Now you know everything you need to start riding a bike.